Models Attract Women Through Honesty by Mark Manson. Picture this. It's 2006, and there's this guy named Matt, tattooed in a rock band, and somehow magnetically irresistible to women in ways that made absolutely no sense to anyone watching. One night, author Mark Manson decided he had to figure out what made this guy tick. So he followed Matt to a bar, ready to take notes on whatever secret formula he was using. What he witnessed next completely blew his mind. Matt strolled up to the most stunning women in the place, the kind most guys wouldn't dare even glance at, and with total confidence, looked them dead in the eye and asked, "Hey, can I pee in your butt?" Yeah, you heard that right. Now obviously, most women reacted exactly how you'd expect. They basically ran for the hills. Manson stood there thinking he'd just wasted his entire evening following this lunatic around. But then, something bizarre happened. A couple of women actually laughed, and one of them? She stuck around and kept talking to him. Minutes later, Matt walked past Manson with that same girl on his arm, both of them grinning ear to ear, heading out together. That single absurd moment became a turning point that would shape the next decade of Manson's life. It's the perfect gateway into what we're exploring today, because buried in that ridiculous pickup line was a secret that would eventually become the foundation of his book, Models. This self-published guide, with virtually no marketing budget, quietly climbed the Amazon charts to outsell even mainstream juggernauts like The Game. Here's the thing, though. The secret wasn't what Matt said, it was why he could say it at all. He was broadcasting something far deeper than words. Total self-acceptance, zero concern for anyone else's opinion, and complete, unflinching honesty about who he was. Today we're diving into the powerful concepts in Mark Manson's Models, Attract Women Through Honesty. This isn't your typical bag of tricks and pickup lines. This is about genuine transformation. By the time we're done, you'll understand the fundamental principle behind all human attraction. And spoiler alert, it has nothing to do with your looks, your bank account, or how clever your jokes are. It all comes down to one powerful concept: non-neediness. Let's kick things off with a question that haunts so many guys. Why do our attempts to attract women backfire so spectacularly? We try being nice, we try being impressive, we craft the perfect things to say, and somehow we're still getting nothing but cold shoulders. Mark Manson's answer is brutally simple. The problem isn't what we're doing, it's why we're doing it. Most men, he argues, are operating from a place he calls neediness. So what exactly is neediness? Here's his definition. Neediness is when you care more about what others think of you than what you think of yourself. A needy guy's entire existence becomes this desperate hunt for approval. He buys that expensive watch, not because he loves it, but because he's hoping someone else will be impressed. He throws out compliments, not because he means them, but because he's basically bribing people for positive reactions. His whole life becomes one giant performance, a never-ending hustle for validation. The flip side? Non-neediness. A non-needy man prioritizes his own opinion of himself above everyone else's. He's driven by his own values, his own passions, his own internal compass. He might still rock that fancy watch or give that compliment, but he's doing it for himself, not for applause. And this, Manson says, is the bedrock of genuine attraction. Women, he explains, have this almost supernatural ability to detect a man's true intentions. They feel it in their gut. That cringy sensation when a guy tries too hard, laughs way too enthusiastically at everything she says, or morphs into a yes man? That's her instincts picking up on neediness. It screams low status. It signals that you'll throw away your own identity just for her approval. And if you don't respect yourself, why should she? To paint this picture clearly, Manson introduces us to two guys, James and Jeff. James is the textbook nice guy. When he's dating someone, she becomes his entire universe. He'll drop everything at a moment's notice, blow his budget on fancy dinners he can't afford, and ghost his friends completely. He's so terrified of rocking the boat that he never speaks his mind, even when he's being treated like a doormat. The result? His girlfriends might like him, but they rarely respect him. Eventually they all leave, James's neediness personified. Then there's Jeff. Jeff has a full, rich life. He loves hanging with his friends, he's got hobbies he's passionate about, and he couldn't care less whether every woman he meets approves of him. When he does meet someone interesting, he asks her out on his terms, maybe to a park near his place where they can actually talk. If the vibe isn't there, he politely moves on. If she's not into him, it rolls right off his back. He figures they just weren't compatible. Jeff is non-neediness in action. He's more invested in himself than in any particular woman. And here's the paradox that drives some guys crazy. Because Jeff won't compromise who he is for a woman, women sense his high self-worth and find themselves powerfully drawn to him. Now, when most men realize they have a neediness problem, they usually stumble into one of two traps. Manson calls these the two false solutions: performance and narcissism. The first trap, performance, is pickup artist territory. This is the guy who tries to fake non-neediness. He memorizes clever lines, follows scripts, learns strategic rules, like that famous 3-day waiting period before calling, all designed to create the illusion that he's a confident, non-needy man. Manson shares the story of Daniel, who after a brutal dry spell, dove headfirst into pickup artist books. He learned all the tactics, the jokes, the conversation topics. And for a hot minute, it actually worked. He met a woman named Stacy, and, by executing his script perfectly, ended up sleeping with her. Daniel thought he'd cracked the code. But here's what he missed. Stacy wasn't attracted to his lines. She was charmed by the endearing, genuine way he fumbled through them. Plus, she was lonely herself, and flattered by all the effort. The moment they slept together, Daniel's performance ended. His memorized material ran out, and his true, needy self emerged. The engaging conversations devolved into him just agreeing with everything she said. The relationship collapsed in a mess of confused, clingy text messages, and Stacy, completely turned off, ended it. Performance, Manson concludes, is just a Band-Aid. It never fixes the underlying neediness, it just covers it up temporarily. The second trap is even more destructive: narcissism, or what Manson calls overcompensation. This is the guy who's been hurt so badly by rejection that he swings to the opposite extreme. He decides to only care about himself, period. This is the dude who treats women like trophies. He adopts toxic beliefs about women being inferior or manipulative to justify his selfish behavior. He's aggressive, insensitive, and demanding. He mistakes being an asshole for being alpha. Manson tells us about Roy, a self-described geeky nice guy who spent years getting friend-zoned. After one particularly painful breakup, his frustration boiled over. He decided he was done being a doormat. He watched jerks get the girl, so he became one himself. And again, briefly, it seemed to work. He started insulting women, and discovered that some were actually drawn to his new bad boy persona. But the women he attracted were just as damaged as he'd become, either desperately needy themselves or narcissistic users. His relationships turned into cyclones of drama, explosive breakups, and emotional chaos. The narcissist's tough guy act is just armor protecting that same sensitive, needy person underneath. He's still desperate for approval. He just tries to extract it by proclaiming his own greatness instead of being nice. Ultimately, it's just another flavor of neediness, leading to shallow, unfulfilling, toxic relationships. So if being the nice guy fails, and being the jerk fails, what's the actual answer? The solution is probably the most counterintuitive thing you'll hear. It's a word most men are taught to avoid at all costs. That word is vulnerability. When we hear vulnerability, our minds usually jump to weakness, but Manson completely redefines it. Real vulnerability, he argues, isn't weakness at all. It's actually a profound form of strength. In Manson's framework, vulnerability means being willing to show your true self without hiding or filtering. It's putting yourself in a position where rejection is possible. It's cracking a joke that might fall flat. It's sharing an opinion that might offend someone. It's telling a woman you're interested and want to take her out. It's sticking your neck out and declaring to the world, "This is who I am, take it or leave it." A man who can do this is broadcasting an incredible level of non-neediness. He's showing he's so secure in himself that potential rejection doesn't faze him. From an evolutionary perspective, this signals high status. Low-status men constantly worry about others, opinions, and hide their flaws. High-status men are comfortable with themselves, imperfections and all, because they have nothing to prove. Manson is crystal clear. Most men's struggles with women stem directly from an inability to be vulnerable. We're terrified to introduce ourselves. We stick to safe, boring conversation topics. We hide our real desires and intentions. This journey toward vulnerability isn't easy. Manson calls the beginning phase the pain period. When you first start opening up, after years of bottling everything inside, it's going to be messy. You'll say the wrong thing. You'll be awkward. You'll face rejection. He shares two incredibly raw stories from his own life. The first involved a woman named Melina, shortly after his first major breakup. He was carrying so much anger and baggage that one night he just unloaded on her, a 15-minute rant about his ex. Melina looked at him with this mixture of concern and discomfort and said, "I probably didn't need to know all of that." The connection died instantly. It was mortifying. But looking back, he realized it was the first time he'd truly opened up about those feelings. And it was a necessary, albeit painful, first step. The second story involved a woman named Kate, who was extremely sexually forward. On their first date, she basically told him to come to her apartment for sex right then and there. He was terrified, and when the moment came, his anxiety completely sabotaged him and he couldn't perform. Again, absolutely mortifying. But in that moment of failure, he had no choice but to be honest. He admitted he was nervous, inexperienced, and coming off a long, dry spell. According to traditional pickup advice, this was the most beta thing imaginable. But it was vulnerable, and it was true. Kate understood. They took things slow, and they ended up dating for months with an amazing connection. These stories teach us something crucial. Becoming vulnerable isn't always pretty, but it's through those moments of imperfection, our rough edges, as he calls them, that real human connection happens. The practical expression of vulnerability is honesty. Honesty is the engine driving this entire transformation, and this honesty must permeate every area of your life. Which brings us to the core practical framework, the three fundamentals. The three fundamentals are the three domains where you must practice honesty to build a non-needy, attractive life: honest living, honest action, and honest communication. Let's start with honest living. This is your foundation. creating a lifestyle that genuinely reflects your values, passions, and identity. Manson introduces a powerful concept here called demographics. The basic idea: like attracts like. You attract who you are. If your life is a lie, if you're stuck in a soul-crushing job just for the paycheck, or you've abandoned your passions to fit in, you're living dishonestly. You're investing your identity in what others want from you, instead of what you want for yourself. This creates a baseline neediness that infects every interaction. The solution? Build a life you genuinely love. Pursue your hobbies. Get involved in activities that excite you. Dance classes, political groups, cooking classes, yoga, whatever lights you up. When you meet women in these environments, you're stacking the deck in your favor. You already share values and interests. The friction is low, and the potential for real connection is high. Honest living also includes your presentation, fitness, and fashion. Manson is blunt. Taking care of your body and dressing well isn't vanity. It's self-investment. A man who presents himself well is non-verbally communicating that he values himself. This alone can make meeting women 3 times easier overnight. The second fundamental is honest action. This is about courage, overcoming the fears and anxieties that stop you from acting on your desires. Most men are paralyzed by fear of rejection. We see an attractive woman and our brain immediately starts generating excuses. She's probably busy. She's out of my league. I don't know what to say. I'll do it after I grab another drink. Manson says the only important skill in dating is learning to stop believing your own excuses. The way to overcome this anxiety isn't to force yourself into some extreme boot camp where you approach 100 women in one night. That method rarely creates lasting change. Instead, he advocates for incremental, consistent exposure. Start small. Week 1. Your only goal might be asking 5 women for the time. That's it. Once that feels comfortable, next week you ask for the time and then add, "How's your day going?" You slowly, systematically expand your comfort zone. You stair-step your way to boldness. This approach builds competence and confidence simultaneously, transforming fear into something manageable and eventually exciting. The final fundamental is honest communication. This is about mastering the expression of your emotions and intentions. This is where everything comes together. The core principle: your intention is everything. Women don't just hear your words, they feel the motivation behind them. This is what separates a charming tease from a mean insult. It's what separates sharing an interesting story from obnoxious bragging. And it's what separates flirting from being creepy. Manson defines creepiness very specifically. Creepiness is behaving in a way that makes a woman feel sexually insecure. This happens when your words and intentions are misaligned. You're talking about the weather but staring at her chest. She feels that disconnect, and it makes her deeply uncomfortable. Flirting, on the other hand, is expressing your sexuality in a way that makes her feel secure, expressing hers back to you. This happens through generating sexual tension, which arises from uncertainty. You can create this 2 ways. First, through playful teasing or mixed signals. If you tell a woman, "I like your dress. My grandmother has one just like it," you're creating uncertainty. Your body language says, "I'm interested," but your words playfully say, "I'm not." That gap creates tension. But the second, more powerful method is bold, direct honesty. This is vulnerability at its peak. When you walk up to a woman and say, "Excuse me, this is random, but I thought you were beautiful, and I had to come meet you," you're doing something incredibly powerful. You're being vulnerable, which builds trust. You're showing you're not afraid of rejection, which demonstrates non-neediness. And you're showing desire for her, which is a primary driver of female attraction. You've instantly created massive uncertainty, not about whether you're interested, but about what happens next. This leads to the crucial concept of polarization. Manson's strategy isn't about getting every woman to like you. That's a needy goal. The strategy is to be so authentically yourself that you polarize women immediately. Women who are right for you, who share your values, appreciate your humor, and are attracted to your true self, will become incredibly receptive. Women who aren't right for you will make themselves unavailable. In this model, rejection isn't failure, it's success. It's an efficient filtering tool for incompatibility. Every no brings you closer to a genuine, enthusiastic, hell yes, and Manson insists you should settle for nothing less. Ultimately, all of this builds toward your ability to connect with women on a deep emotional level. Seduction isn't about attraction alone, it's about connection. A woman feels safe being sexual with a man when she feels he genuinely cares about her and has connected with her as a person. This happens by leading with vulnerability. You share your stories, passions, and fears first. This creates trust and invites her to share herself in return. You relate to her feelings, not just the facts of her life. You connect through universal human experiences you both share: ambition, regret, love, heartbreak. This is the ultimate expression of the non-needy man. He's so secure in himself that he can be open, honest, and vulnerable. In doing so, he creates space for a woman to do the same, leading to the profound connection that's the true foundation of any meaningful relationship. So what's the real takeaway from all of this? When you strip everything else away, the message of models is both incredibly simple and incredibly challenging. The most attractive thing you can be is yourself, but only if you've built a self-worth being. This book is a powerful rejection of the quick-fix, manipulative tactics that dominate so much of the dating world. It argues that the path to better relationships isn't about learning what to say to women. It's about becoming the kind of man who doesn't need to worry about what to say. It's a shift from an external focus, how can I get her to like me, to an internal one. Am I living a life I'm actually proud of? This philosophy extends far beyond dating. It's a guide to living with integrity. The three fundamentals, honest living, honest action, and honest communication, aren't just dating strategies. They're a blueprint for a well-lived life, where your actions align with your values, where you face your fears instead of running from them, and where you express your truth openly and without apology. The most profound lesson for me is the reframing of vulnerability. In a world that often teaches men to be stoic, to hide emotions and never show weakness, Manson presents vulnerability as the ultimate superpower. It's the key that unlocks trust, connection, and genuine attraction. It's the courage to be imperfect in a world that pressures us to be anything but. So how can you start applying these ideas today in a small, manageable way? Here are 3 simple actions. First, conduct what I call an honesty audit. Tonight, take just 10 minutes and write down one area of your life that feels misaligned with your true self. Maybe it's something small, like pretending to enjoy certain music to fit in, or something big, like staying in a career path to please someone else. Just identifying it is the first step toward honest living. Second, take one small, bold action in the next 24 hours. This doesn't mean approaching the most stunning person you see. It could be as simple as giving a genuine, unconditional compliment to the cashier at the grocery store, not to get a reaction, but to practice expressing a positive thought without expecting anything in return. This is your first step toward honest action. Finally, practice an intention check. Next time you feel nervous in a social situation, pause for a moment and ask yourself, what's my intention right now? Am I trying to get this person's approval, or am I trying to genuinely connect with them? Simply being aware of your motivation is the first step toward honest communication. That was our deep dive into Models, Attract Women Through Honesty by Mark Manson. We've explored the core principles today, but I'll be straight with you. A summary is like looking at a map of a beautiful country. The real magic happens when you decide to take the journey yourself. It's in those quiet moments of reading, when a particular story or simple phrase resonates with you in an unexpected way. This summary is designed to help you decide if this book is worth your time. If anything we've discussed today has struck a chord, I encourage you to grab a copy. Reading it isn't just about learning. It's an experience that can fundamentally change how you see yourself, your relationships, and your life. The link to the book is in the description. Also, if you found this summary valuable, I'd be grateful if you'd hit that like button and subscribe to our channel, Billionaire's Bookshelf. That way, you won't miss our next journey into another life-changing book. Let's keep learning and growing together.